know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
For the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Hello again, and welcome to another edition. This is the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast, and this is your host, Mr. Green. How are you out there in podcast land? And thank you for tuning in. As you have, I, as always, appreciate it. And what a show we have to recap today. This was the episode that I was somewhat looking forward to. At the same time, a little bit of dread, but I was looking forward to seeing, okay, I wonder how they're going to execute these things. And yeah, I pretty much, for lack of a better term, got what I paid for. My goodness. Good old wow. Sometimes, and I say sometimes, they can surprise me with some interesting things. And then sometimes I will get little moments like this that leave me bewildered. But that's not a here nor there, because we will get around to that as the show begins to progress. And we start to, I don't want to say pick apart. What's a better? Not just pointing out some of the obvious quirks. We'll call it that. However, since I'd had a little bit more time on my side as I was doing this particular episode, I decided I'm relatively back up to speed, relatively speaking, so I can do my normal show. So, as such, let me get back to something that I haven't done in several weeks now. That's the news, views, and updates. So, here we go. And what is going on out there in the wrestling world? Well, because I had put this on pause, and I don't mean literally pause the recording. I mean just, I took some time before I got to this episode and recording. There's been quite a bit of things, and some of this that I'm going to talk about or bring up is things that I wanted to talk about preceding this week. So it may be old information, but, I'm bringing it up anyhow. But this information is fairly active. It's the old annual cuts. Yep. It is that time of year again where the WWE decides to go through spring cleaning and let's get rid of all the people that we don't need that's just taking up space on the roster, or at least that's how they probably view it. Because we only have $10 billion in our account. We can't afford to keep all of these people. Why? How else are we going to have the money to put behind, the executives at TKO? Before I even go into that, I so wish that there was a promotion out there that could take advantage of this. That is the most disconcerting thing to me in wrestling of all. The WWE, or more specifically TKO's ownership of the WWE, and that they more or less tell you up front in almost any interview that I've listened to where they're talking about the business model behind them, they're pretty much telling you, oh no, we're going to charge you money, and a lot of it, because that's the way that it should be done, and these people will pay for it, and they know they will. They know that there's going to be WWE fans that just will bend over backwards, or forwards for that matter, and take what they get. They're not concerned about the average fan out there anymore, or the family. And if they are, then you're just going to have to scrape up the money to get out here. You know, sure, you might have been able to have a night out at wrestling for less than $500, you know, a couple of years ago. But today, you're probably looking more like $2,000 to $3,000. If you're showing up with a full family, if it's just two of you, you're going to spend a lot. Much less if you're going on, you know, the merchandise, the food, the parking, getting out the tickets. And then even through that, you got to sit through a ton of commercials and travel vlogs and everything else. It is losing the fun in that place. I mean, there's a lot of talent there that I like, but it is losing the fun in that joint just rapidly, at least for me. I wish it would change. I know it's not gonna, because they're following the Disney principle. As Disney was at one point, you know, they were, you know, happy for families and whatnot, but once the original vision of the owners died off, and then you got some corporate faces that came in, it's like, well, we can squeeze these people for every cent that they're worth, and they'll pay it. And they're right. They will pay it. Because it's at a point now that the WWE is just supposed to be there. And the grand scheme of the country is just one of those things that's just supposed to be there. Just imagine if you woke up tomorrow and there's like McDonald's is closing down. It would be unthinkable, because it's one of those things that's just supposed to be there. It's always been there. How could this happen? WWE is like that. It's just ingrained itself into the fabric of the country, and it's supposed to be there. And somebody out there is going to pay every cent possible to be able to go. Now, they might not go back over and over and over again, but they're going to pay. Because, hey, this is the price, and you better take it or leave it. I really, 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 really wish that there was a promotion out there that could take advantage, because I would have liked to have thought AEW, but AEW is not going to be the one to do it. Now, AEW is very cost effective and cost friendly. I'll give them that. But they're not going to be the ones to be able to take advantage of this. And certainly TNA is not, because they're in bed with the WWE. I would have even, truthfully, I would have even wished that WoW could have done something. Like if there was ever a time that WoW could start to try to break itself into the fabric of the wrestling fan base, is now. There is not a better time that they've got. And I know they're not going to do it. That's the sad part. This is the time where they should have been having a campaign to, you know, family friendly, great wrestling, blah, blah, blah. The problem is WoW doesn't move, WoW doesn't tour, WoW doesn't have the capability to take advantage of this situation, which is a shame. It should be noted that the episode that I'm reviewing took place over WrestleMania weekend. So I'm pretty sure that they probably took a massive hit just in that. Much less, you know, the amount of people that was out in Vegas. And I did question, and I promise I'll get back to the news and after that. But I did question. I was like, I wonder how many people went out to Vegas thinking that WoW was actively out there on Fremont Street. Because he always refers to it as live. We're live here on Fremont Street. Well, it was live to tape, maybe, but, you know. I just, for those that went out there like, hey, this is on, let me go out, because WrestleMania weekend has always been big for the independent promoter. So there was probably no reason for any of those people that went out there to piggyback off of WrestleMania, whether they were promoters or fans. Some of them go knowing they're not going to get into WrestleMania, but they know that a wrestling convention of sorts will be all over this city. And all I need to do is just get out there, and I will find me some reasonable wrestling to watch or be a part of, or some signings to go to and all. Now, I know that there was some wild talent that took place in the signings. I don't know if they took place in matches. But I do wonder if it was any level of disappointment for somebody that went out there thinking it was there and walked out to that shit like, where the hell is the ring at? Anyhow. Back to the unfortunate releases. That just took me on a big sidebar there. Again, it's WWE's seemingly annual tradition is kind of screwed up that you're expecting this on a yearly basis, but this is where we're at. This is where we're at with that. And I'm going to go down the list of everybody, not just the women, just because it's probably a little easier to do it that way. But as of right now, this is the list of releases, WWE 2026 following WrestleMania 42. And it leads off with Aleister Black, who they had just kind of reacquired from AEW. Also, his wife, Zelina Vega, which does make me, question, all right, would he pop back into AEW? Because he left apparently because he didn't like their creative, but he's free now. Would he go back? Or would TNA be a good landing place for him? It'd be great for him if he got to go. Maybe that'll be a better location for him to be, but time will tell. I'm sure most of these people will land on their feet. There's going to be promoters out there that's perfectly willing to, hey, you're available now. Sorry, let go. But if you want to come and take this booking, here you go. So it's it's sad that you lose a job, but most of them I am perfectly sure that they will land on their feet and they'll be fine. They're very talented persons. Anyway, continuing on. A little bit disappointed to see that Kairi Sane has been let go. One half of the Kabuki Warriors tag team. She's no longer there. Perhaps a return to Stardom. Perhaps she'll get picked up by AEW. She definitely is going to find some place to go very easily. Bo Dallas, who took up the moniker of Uncle Howdy, which honestly I didn't give a shit about the Wyatt Six. They had a great debut and then it just kind of died off for me. So I'm not wishing ill on any of them. I hope they all find wherever they need to go next. But the Wyatt Six, and along with, and matter of fact, it's the entire group. The entire group of the Wyatt Six is gone. Bo Dallas, a.k.a. Uncle Howdy, Nikki Cross, Joe Gacy, Eric Rowan, Dexter Lumis. They've all been cut. So you do not have to sit and look at that anymore. And I know that Bo Dallas probably had his heart in very much the right place and, wanted to pick up with his brother's vision of the Wyatts and Uncle Howdy and all that good stuff, but I don't think it can work without Bray. There's not many people that can perform a cult leader act and be relatively convincing in a wrestling environment. There ain't many. And I'll be the first to admit I was not a huge fan of Bray Wyatt's promos. He had great energy and delivery. He was one of the few people that he could just spout out some gibberish and it just sounded good. I was like, okay. So I wasn't a big fan of his promos, but I was a fan of the persona, if nothing else. I preferred that more than I did The Fiend, but, you know, he was a very creative guy, and I know his brother was trying, but, you know, I think the Wyatt's have run his course, and he probably needs to discover who Bo Dallas is again. Where were we? Santos Escobar also let go. The Motor City Machine Guns, unfortunately, and then, or maybe fortunately, they probably jumped back into TNA, but they got the chance to step out of their environment, go to another place, win the tag team championships. They didn't get to do all that much. Like, I don't remember them setting the world on fire, and even the tag team championship win that they got felt like it came out of nowhere. But it's on their resume. They were able to do it. So we'll see where the Guns, if they pop back up, where they pop back up. Apollo Cruz, which I had forgotten was on the roster. He's been cut. Zoe Stark. Sorry to see her go. Wonder where she's going to pop up. Alba Fire. Also gone. Andre Chase. Chase U. So Chase University on NXT. Gone. Dante Chen. Gone. Luca Crucifino. I hope I'm saying that right. Everybody else here is like all developmental. Malik Blade, Tyson DuPont. I'm not even Tyreek. I cannot pronounce his last name. Not going to try. Tyra May Steele, which I'm actually shocked to see that she was cut, and especially how the WWE loves their legitimate athletes, the gold medalists. You would think that they would have done everything in their power to, like, all right, we got to make this work. She had a good look. Maybe she wasn't as natural as, to the wrestling thing as you would think. But, part of this comes with the territory of having a roster of almost 200 people across multiple platforms. They don't really need anybody except for that upper tier. Those are the ones that you would look at and say they're bulletproof. That upper echelon of talent that's either been there for 20 years and have established a name, or they just came in and they went right to the top of it. Your Roman Reigns, your CM Punks, your Cody Rhodes. Those guys are relatively bulletproof. Rhea Ripley. They know they don't want to let them go because any wrestling promotion, AEW specifically, will scoop them up in a heartbeat. Chris Island, Trill London, and Serena Linton. All of them have been released, unfortunately, for their WWE careers at least. But they may turn around and get some good stuff elsewhere. Time will tell. Wishing them all the best for each and every last one of them. So that is an update on something that's really, really recent as of me recording it. It kind of popped up in my feed as I was writing the show and getting my notes together and organizing things, and I thought that this has to be addressed. Got to talk about it. If anybody, as it relates to this podcast, if anybody was going to just pop up in WoW at this stage, I would assume the only persons that they would be able to grab are probably the developmental talent. Them they might be able to get. Everybody else, I like a Nikki Crosses and Zelina Vegas or something like that, they probably will go elsewhere. I would be surprised. I mean, look, I'll be more than happy to be wrong if Zelina Vega just decides to pop up there, or Nikki Cross shows up in WoW or whatever. That'll be a big step for them. I just doubt that it will happen. Moving on. This Hall of Fame inductee, not WWE Hall of Fame, but the TNA Hall of Fame. Wanted to bring this up, again, maybe a week or two ago, and didn't get the opportunity to do that because I was trying to move along quickly. But today we're going to give credit to the ODB, not old dirty bastard from Wu-Tang Clan. It was the originator of the ODB, at least in the public. This is ODB the wrestler. One dirty bitch. I probably should bleep myself from saying that, but hey, it's her name. She named herself. She's going in for the 2026 Hall of Fame or win in. And this is a deserved position. I mean, I don't know how anybody could see that any less. She was one of the staples of that company, especially when they was getting their women's division off the ground, the Knockouts division. She's a 4-time champion. She was the former Knockouts tag team champion, even though it was kind of a joke thing that they were doing because she was tag team champion with Eric Young. She was also the inaugural OVW women's champion, which I found hilarious when I read that way back in the day because she just showed up with the belt, right? But she showed up with the belt using a inside wrestling term. So like I won it in a tournament down in Rio de Janeiro, which is what the WWE did way back decades ago to establish a championship that they didn't need people to see. Like the Intercontinental title. Like, oh yeah, the titles were merged. The North American and the South American championships were merged in a tournament in Rio de Janeiro. Why Rio de Janeiro? Because they knew that no one, especially at that point in time in life, was going to be able to check and back it up. They would you just got to take our word for it. This took place overseas. And so she used that, which I thought was funny, nice little callback. And for those people that's in OVW right now, at least as far as the on television reasonings for that title existing, they owe ODB. Yes. All of them that have gone through there, all the ladies that have popped up in OVW, that's including the Holly Swag, that's including the Tadvik, that's including the J-Rod, that either won or went after the OVW Women's Championship. There you go. She's the reason. The Inspiration debuted in Ring of Honor several weeks ago. But why are we bringing that up? Because they are questioned as the most decorated tag team in modern women's wrestling. Which, fascinating to think about. Because I don't know if anybody looks at them as like this stellar tag team. They've been entertaining and they're good at what they do, but they also, like in a company like AEW that looks at nothing but work rate, at least their version of it. I found them almost like a sore thumb there. I mean, they're still there now, but they feel so much more like a WWE product than anything AEW would generally produce. But they're there. And their resume is, the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship, the TNA/Impact Women's Tag Team Championship, the Princess Tag Team Championship from Tokyo Joshi Pro, WSU Tag Team Championship, PWWA Tag Team Championships. They have several of them, but I guess the person that put this post up was like, if they win the AEW Women's Tag Team Championships, they would have triple crowned it. And they would be the first, and as of right now, the only to accomplish that. And that's probably somewhat likely to happen. If there's any team that's going to be capable of pulling that off, currently is going to be them, because there aren't a lot of women tag teams that stick together for that length of time to go traveling between one promotion after the next promotion after the next promotion to make a name for themselves. But these two have. So if they're in AEW long enough, I expect them to win their women's tag team championship at some point. Time will tell. And if they do, then there will be a definite arguable case to be made for them being the most decorated tag team in modern women's wrestling. Who will step up and challenge that position? Who knows? And speaking of women's tag teams and tag team champions. This has already happened and they've already lost, but I had to bring it up that High-End and Maya World stacked up wins to earn the AEW Women's Tag Team title shot. And in the notes when I was putting this together, I wrote down, is this a message to Miranda and Nixon Newell? The team that famously or infamously walked out, and then High-End and Maya World took their spot. I could be wrong, but it almost felt like they used them as a way to show, see, if you'd have just hung in here, you could have gotten higher profile. All you had to do is just stick with it, and maybe you'd have got here. High-End and Maya World turned that thing around relatively quick. Now, they didn't win the titles, but they went from just being jobbed out one night to being competitive. Is that the path that would have taken place for the previous team had they stayed? We'll never know. We'll never know. But I would not be surprised, nor would I doubt that Tony Khan or someone within AEW that had Tony Khan's ear would have pushed having them win, having them get some credibility underneath them, just as an open message, not just specifically to that team, but as a message to anybody that comes in AEW from that point out, to say that, hey, look, you can get a reasonable shot here. All you got to do is just be patient. Again, we'll never know. As far as the rest of the wrestling world is concerned, we've gotten the exits out of WWE. Got a couple of bits of old news that we talked about there. I don't remember if I brought up the fact that Wendy Chu had won the Evolve Women's Championship. But not only has she won the Evolve Women's Championship, but she wants to fight Lady Luck. She wants to fight the WWE ID Women's Champion. That's the independent development. I can't remember what the ID thing stood for. But yeah, she is looking to have taken on Luck. And of course, we got some angle that kicked off from that as Nikita Lyons came out and interrupted. Nikita Lyons. Well, just saying her name just brought my mind to, she managed to dodge another round of releases. I don't know how she did it. I mean, I would have thought that she would have been on the table, and I ain't wishing it to happen. I'm just saying it. For all intents and purposes, they kind of rotated her backwards from NXT to Evolve to LFG. And I'm really somewhat surprised that she's managed to keep it going. Congratulations to her. She's still cooking. And lastly, we've had a top star leave Marigold. And bear with me as I attempt her name. I think Utami might be the correct way to pronounce the first one, but I don't even know if I want to try to say her last name, because I feel like I am going to butcher that. So I'm going to ask you to probably look this up. But she has, Utami has left the Marigold promotion, and she was previously one of their top stars. It was, I think she just had announced her final match. It's going to be on May 23rd, so you still have time to see her if you are watching Marigold Wrestling. But it will be her final time next month, May 23rd, 2026, Where she's going past that, do not know. Maybe she'll get up and come over to the States like some of her predecessors have. But we will see. But that is the big news coming out of that promotion. I guess Marigold is our Stardom equivalent now, since he was, I think, started up by the same guy. So you got to give him credit. I guess the Japanese counterpart to David McLane has really managed to keep this thing moving along also. And to get a lot of coverage worldwide for good and bad. All right. Well, that's that. We have covered everything that we needed to cover there. What's his name? Rossi Agawa. I couldn't think of his name at the time, but that's the guy that runs the place. All right, so now again, we have covered everything that I believe I took notes on, wanted to cover, wanted to talk about. So now we can move on to the meat of the subject. That is going to be WoW and their most recent episode. But before we do that, of course, we're going to take our quick break, hit our Talking the Talk, and our little musical interlude. And when we come back from that, it'll be time for our full review. Stay tuned. Be right back.
Pro wrestling has given me so much. With pro wrestling, I've been able to buy this beautiful, lovely home. With pro wrestling, I've been able to get me my own sirvienta. Lisa. With pro wrestling, I've been able to get dripped out with this fine jewelry. Diamonds. Puras mentiras. Mom! Now, I'm gonna keep it real with you, ladies and gentlemen. I grew up in the streets, a little tomboy looking at, with these big ass shoulders and whatnot. But look at where I'm going this week. I'm going to the grand papi of them all, WrestleMania. I'm living my dream. Now, I've gone through so many iterations of Pescadita, from the soccer field as a semi-pro athlete to the national powerlifting platforms. I could live you and your man, Chiquitita. But that's beside the point, because I know I gotta stay on these beautiful toes of mine, because one thing's for sure. When I step into the ring, it's just like the streets. And in the streets, yo soy la que mando. Salud, dinero y amor.
Pelotero la bola, batiri, batiri, ba.
Last woman standing. Now, to some that may sound like a very daunting match, but to the center of attention, to the new AWF Women's Champion, it's not daunting, it's not scary, it's a test. A test to prove that I am the very best that this division has to offer. Now, Fallen, you and I, we've wrestled so many times, more times than I can even keep track of. But one thing I always notice is that you cannot beat me. The closest you have gotten was last time when we were one-on-one in an AWF ring. There was a double countout. No winners, no losers, just a whole lot of proof that when you and I collide, the destruction is beyond repair. So it's very, very fitting that we have a last woman standing match, because Saturday night is about one thing: And that thing is survival. Who can keep getting up after being knocked down and beaten and brutalized? And Fallen, I know how tough you are. You don't just get a WWE tryout. You earned it. And I respect that. But there's one thing that respect can't hide, and that's the truth. And the truth is, Fallen, you won't be able to survive me. We have been doing this for 2 years straight. 2 years of grudges, 2 years of fights. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of giving you opportunities to try and take my spot on top of the AWF women's division. I am tired of you. And on Saturday night, I will beat you. I will be the last woman standing, and I will still be your AWF women's champion. Why? Because it's Brittney, bitch.
And we are back. And this episode of Wow in Review is episode 428, season 4, episode 28, the title Bullies versus Bullied. The air date, April 18th. The chronological number, 184. The show started off with a recap of Terror Strike and Ashley Blaze versus Miami Sweet Heat, the title match, and the introduction of the team of Best for Business. This then goes to our next segment, and I guess the opening segment, following the recap, of course, of the show. Best for Business walking out with shirts that are blurred out. Why? I have no idea. I sincerely doubt that it was as bad as they tried to pretend it was. And not only was that, I mean, the second they walked out on the stage, it was blurred. So it's not like you got some sort of real quick hint or something like that. And then you got Dave McLane. Oh my God, look at these shirts. I'll blur that out, Brian. Blur that out. I was like, oh, come on. What kind of lewd picture did they draw in there? Nothing. Kind of, and I have it on good authority that I have discovered what those words were on the shirt. You're going to hear it here first. Is I will wrestle for booze. There you go. Problems, mystery solved. Because they clearly were, that's the whole reason that she missed her title shot in the first place. She was out getting, there wasn't coffee in that cup. He was out getting drunk. Anyhow, Kalaki cuts a promo on how they're cutting dead weight. Again, bear in mind that this is somebody that just did not show up for her title shot. Her title shot. But she's cutting the dead weight. They say they help the ratings. I'm not sure how. And like, where is this coming from? And it was like, where's the greatest thing going? I mean, they didn't say that, but they pretty much were doing the normal heel shtick. Now, again, them forming their team is probably the best thing for them. For Sandy Shore, for certain. Because she has just been cursed by Danhausen or something, because she was just on her back looking up at the sky on any given episode that you looked at. I know there was like, oh, I'm cutting the dead weight. I was like, everybody in Spring Break 24/7 was dead weight. But you can't cut the entire group. So there you go. So they come out and they had their promo, and I'm sure we're gonna, get the new outfits and I hope new names, or at the very least cut off Shore. She could just be Sandy something, I don't know. And Kai needs to, cut the last name there too, because they're gimmick centric. So I assume that outside of a visual change, because I can't imagine that they're going to continue to come out there with the neon green outfit with the beach ball and the Dojo Defender-esque outfit that Kai had. So it's got to change at some point. So they addressed David and they talked to him about all of this stuff. And again, getting back to the shirts just for a second, because, I was joking around with that, but still, what was that for? What was that for? Is that supposed to be some way of like, we'll get the people talking. They'll see the controversy that's going on in the wild because of these shirts that we're never going to talk about and never show and never bring up again. Why was this? And honestly, it just felt like a poor effort to try to drum up some attention. And I expect them to do the same thing that they did with the Nashville Classmaster match. It'll just disappear and it won't be mentioned again. So again, why were those shirts there? as they are talking, Blaze and Strike come out to attack them. The tag Best for Business. The fight breaks out between all four. 2 refs come out to break them up. Zayn says that the refs are doing all they can do to keep them separated. I was like, I don't know what you're watching. If I can borrow a line off of somebody else's show, the YouTube pitch meeting series, or paraphrase, it was no trouble at all, barely an inconvenience. Yeah, 2 refs breaking up 4 people. So what you wound up getting is that they're standing in front of at least one of them, while the other 2 on the opposite ends of the ring had to stand like there was something that was stopping them from running across the ring and attacking the other person. Some invisible barrier or invisible force field or another invisible ref that was preventing them from doing anything. I think why would this come off as, well, they can barely keep them separated? No, they kept them separated fine. And without a lot of effort, didn't touch them. Bear didn't have to pull anybody, didn't require a group of people, didn't require security, didn't require more than them 2. It's not as visually out of control as they played it up to be, nor that they probably think. This felt like Wild's attempt to be edgy, but it fell short. From the shirts to the brawl, it felt like they were trying to be edgy or out of control, and it fell short with this. If they were looking to try to make it come off that way, send out some more people to hold them back. Here it just came off like, I don't want to fight, and the other person was glad of it. Like they fought because they had to, but then once they got separated, like, yeah, you hold me back, God damn it, I'll show you. It was nothing. They could have ran across there at any given point if they felt like doing it. They just didn't. So yeah, it was like they didn't seem to fight that hard to keep them apart. This was barely an inconvenience. Next segment. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to bring up something. Well, I guess I could go into this thing. So our next segment, McLane recaps the Best for Business segment we just saw. He talks about the blurred shirts with no hint as to what it said, and I wrote down why have them. Why have the shirts? Can't do anything with it. Not going to sell it. Not going to talk about it. Not going to show it. Why have them? They was blurred from the moment they walked out. Before he even said blur those shirts. So we know it's not a live action or responding to him. This is already done. So why? But going to what I was about to say, as I was doing this episode and writing my notes, I put the the Wild podcast on in the background so I could hear Best for Business being interviewed, which, you know, they got on and they did their normal shtick. I mean, this has been a while. I haven't listened to it in a while. I pretty much determined that the Wild podcast, you know, it's nice. It's a complimentary piece to whatever the show is, but whatever happens on that podcast has no bearing on the show. So I'm like, yeah, I'll catch it when I catch it. But during this, at some point in time, I don't know when and why he brought it up. I can't, you know, I wasn't paying that much attention. I just heard it. Nigel at some point there says something to the effect of, if I say the name David, they get on me for saying it too much or whatever the case would be, which I did find, you know, funny. I was like, that perked my ears up. I was like, oh, no. He actually has acknowledged that somebody brought it up. Now, look, I am certainly not going to say that it was me. I do not believe that. I think somebody else might have brought it to his attention. But given that they brought it to his attention, first off, I'm going to say good. And secondly, again, will not take any credit for that. I will say that I might have been one of the catalysts for bringing it up. But those things wouldn't be brought up if it wasn't, overdone or utilized. So, no, Nigel, it's not that if you say David, they're going to just jump down your throat. If you say David multiple times through the course of a match, yes, that's where the problem lies. Not that you actually just say his name. They don't have a problem with his name. Is if you, hey, David, and David, and David, and David, when you turn into a broken record, yeah, that is when it becomes an issue. Lest us not refer to the old David counter again, because it got bad. It got bad. That was the whole reason I started that counter thing in the first place, to illustrate, look how many times this is being said in a 10-minute match. You shouldn't be knocking out his name 18 times. But, he got off of that David high horse and came down. It sounds like he's returning to that, but at least he's aware. So there you go. And I still like him as a commentator. I don't like him with a commentating partner like David McLane. No. I still believe wholeheartedly the same thing I said about who was the other? Damn it, his name just dropped out of my head. Stephen Dickey. I still believe wholeheartedly the same thing I said about him. Like, he's fine enough as a commentator. The problem is his partner. Because when you're sitting there with David McLane, you have to do his style. And it's been proven to be true. At least between 3 sets of commentating teams. Stephen Dickey has to do what David McLane does. When AJ Mendez was there, she could barely talk. And then you got Nigel, who, like Stephen Dickey, has to do what David McLane does. Maybe it'll change. I doubt that it will. Maybe. One day. Who knows? All right. Yeah, now we could get back to the course of the review. The next segment is Blaze and Strike. They have a promo that's, we'll say, in their backstage area. This is the promo that makes them basically look frustrated. And they're talking, but they're not saying much of anything. It is like, ooh, I can't believe it. It's kind of like that. And if anybody looks heartbroken in this, I will say, Tara Strike. Maybe she just has a very earnest face. But she at times looks like somebody just reached in her chest and yanked her heart out. Like, I can't believe you did this. But yeah, I mean, you got that, and they're carrying on about being frustrated and their former friends turning their back on them. Tara Strike, I could believe, has every reason to be frustrated and disappointed and hurt, and in storyline, I can believe that. Blaze, on the other hand, other than the attack. Other than that, I'm like, you kind of brought this nonsense on yourself. No one asked her to jump into this thing and campaign for a title shot between the two of them. She just chose to do it. And Tara Strike went along with it. That should have been whatever issues that Kai and Shore had. Well, Kai specifically. It should have been that. This entire angle could have been minimized to just those things. Instead of muddying the waters and overcomplicating stuff, it could have just been she wasn't there when she missed a flight, and Blaze started doing the same thing, invited herself to help because she thought she was being a friend, but then Kai resents her for it. Didn't have to be a secret. Didn't have to turn into like who did this and oh my gosh, it must be Miami Sweet Heat. They use pink paint. It didn't require all of that. And Ashley Blaze could have been left as a babyface just as she is now. Nothing significant would have altered if they had skipped over that first part, just had Kai unavailable somehow, and Blaze trying to do the friend thing and stick up for him, but Kai not wanting. Is like, hey, what do you mean you got a title shot? I'm her partner. And they could have picked up from there. And it would have given Kai a much more solid state of motivation. Opposed to the reversal of victim blaming, picking a partner who hadn't won a match almost ever. Like, I don't know what reason Sandy Shore would have to go through these links. What is her motivation for this? Beyond that, she's just hanging out with Kai. She wasn't a heel before. She didn't illustrate any heel tendencies leading into this. Why is she so motivated to be mad, angry, want to vandalize a lot? Well, for vandalism for what they do. I mean, vandalize a locker room, spray paint somebody in the eyes. What is motivating her to do that? This technically isn't her fight. But she's there. And I would hope that as they proceed on as a heel tag team, that Sandy Shore should be cheating back and forth to get a match. Because if she just turn around and just start winning all of a sudden, you're like, all right, well, that makes a lot of sense. Where was that when she was the babyface? And I'm just saying, if she starts winning without any rhyme or reason, like I don't have to use brass knucks. I don't have to hold the tights. I don't have to, use any underhanded tactics to get there. If she just magically starts becoming this world-class wrestler because she flipped heel without, having to resort to anything to offset the balance in her favor, then what does she need to turn heel for in the first place? Anyhow, this whole thing that was backstage with them, like I said, looking frustrated, is basically setting up the continuing of this feud. Next segment. It's a promo for the tag match with Pandemonium and Miranda the Mindful. You remember that wonderful PBS cartoon character? As they take on Kalaki the Island Girl and Destiny Diesel. Segment after that, the match itself. Of course, because it's Dr. Pandemonium, they come out to a full group of the Enlightened because they can't stay backstage and McLane isn't going to make them. Even though you got to look back at the Alliance, like just them on site being there before they did anything. We got to kick them out. The Enlightened, when you know that they're going to get in there, you know that they're going to cheat and they're trying to kidnap people actively, no, they're fine. Just let them stay. This thing is terrible. So, McLane recalls and asked why the Enlightened come out with Garrett as a target. Smart cuts a promo on why they're abducting wrestlers. I mean, that's basically what it was. Talking about why they're doing what they're doing. I wrote down, why is she admitting to crimes? I mean, I understand when they're on TV and they're doing the wrestling thing. It's like, yeah, we beat you up and stuff. Like, all right, look, that also is a crime. But the theory being is that within this combat sports environment, that aspect of it is, left out of legality because we can always settle it in the ring. I will get my revenge personally. It's not talked about much, but that's the overall theory behind it. There's very few times where they have Illustrated talked about that aspect. I remember Edge doing a promo, or interview, I should say, when Matt Hardy returned, and they were having their issues, both real life and on camera. And Ed said something to the effect of, I want you to hire that man back. Because if I did what I wanted to do to him out in public, I'd be arrested for it. Hire him. And so I can, and I'm paraphrasing now, but so I can take it out on him in the ring. And so there's the overall logic behind beating somebody up. But abduction, brainwashing. Okay. During this, they cut to the backstage with Sibley, Scoles interviewing Diesel and Kalaki. And I wrote down they're not the most engaging promo. In fact, this is pretty bland. Nothing against them, but it just is. As I stated before, the entirety of the Enlightened are at ringside again. Zayn is asked what the hand sign means, and he's still not answered, even though he was answered on one of the episodes of the podcast several weeks ago. But again, if it's not mentioned on TV, it doesn't count. I thought this would be the perfect time for him to be like, well, on our podcast that happens every Friday, I said, she told me such and such. It would have been a good time to plug it. But, while you keep doing what you do. McLane and Zayn insist on using the full names of everyone, which at times, you get it. But it can get old. Depending on how many times it's thrown out there, because I don't know if you have to go Destiny Diesel all the time, but fortunately, Kalaki's name is too long for them to go Kalaki the Island Girl every chance they get, so they just stick with Kalaki. The match in and of itself, I got everything that I expected out of this. That being, I know that Kalaki's going to be the one that's going to sit through 90% of this match. Diesel will start it and Diesel will end it. And that's what happened. The only reason I say that about Destiny Diesel is because she doesn't seem to have done all that much in the ring so far. I know McLane has carried on, and they seem like they're trying to push her as being some big deal. Zayn says Diesel with that freight train like competitor. Like, look, I'm not going to doubt that she doesn't have the athletic qualifications to be a freight train like competitor. But at the same time, if those things that he's talking about have not taken place on camera in a ring, it doesn't mean anything. What has she done within the context of the match that has illustrated her as being some sort of powerhouse freight train like competitor, as he calls it? What makes her a freight train? McLane says the fans have gotten behind her. I wrote how and why. This is literally like a third match. And of those three, you could probably say that she had, and I'm guessing, I have not done the math, but it wouldn't surprise me that among three matches, she's been in the ring for a total of 8 to 9 minutes. And within that, locked up maybe twice. I'm sorry to say, Destiny Diesel does not do all that much. She locked up like once in this match, and then she went to the Destiny Diesel stuff. Clothesline, back elbow, shoulder block. That's it. It doesn't show her as being some accomplished wrestler or somebody that has blue chip athlete written on top of them for, the wrestling world's going to be looking out for this one. Now, that ain't her fault. That's wild for trying to over promote her, but I don't get it. I'm sure somebody else out there like, well, you're talking about she's fantastic. I don't get it. I don't see that. I just don't. I don't know if she would be capable of carrying a match beyond 5 minutes unless it was completely memorized. She doesn't come off like she is a natural competitor. That's not to say that she doesn't execute well. She does. But this feels like the smoke and mirrors deal. Let's pair you off with somebody who can do the bulk of the work and you can come in and clean up. And that's more or less what you got here. This match, maybe not the best example for all competitors involved. It at points was slow and plodding. There's times where some people didn't sell a thing. It's only so much that Kalaki can do. That's all I can say. It is only so much that she can do. And this match just was like a pure illustration of that for me. So let's look at the match in and of itself. I'm going to try to take a look at this. I wish I could just put this up on the screen as I'm talking so that it would be better illustrated. And maybe I'll do that. Who knows? But anyway, we're going to start with the match, Pandemonium and Miranda the Mindful versus Kalaki and Diesel. The first thing we got is when Smart gets down and walks out, she's pointing a finger at all the fans and like, you're stupid, and you're stupid, and you're stupid. And, of course, they're not taking any of that seriously. They just kind of smile and laugh. And then the match starts. Begins with Mindful and Diesel, who are beginning with their standard wild hookup pose. I don't know why Miranda and Mindful was coming out there like she's got a huge smile on her face. I was like, I don't know. Maybe she found it all funny. They hook up. Mindful uses a stomp on the foot to break whatever hold that Diesel has. Diesel returns that at some point. Then they tag out a snap mare by Diesel that sets Miranda down. It looked like Kalaki was trying to get a swift kick on the upper body of Mindful, but also like her foot got caught on her lower body. Because there's no way that she intended to do that, what she did. And then Diesel gives her a splash, and now after her 10 seconds in the ring, we got Kalaki, who's now taking on Miranda Mindful. Yeah, these names. We'll just stick with Miranda. So, nothing to disparage young Miranda or Pam. I guess you see Diesel across the ring just yelling, at the entirety of the group and not having any fear. I mean, look, if there's any positive that you can get out of her is that she was fearless in this alleged creepy super group that they got. Miranda gives a super kick that kind of connects to Kalaki's shoulder at some point and shoves her back. Even though Kalaki's within arm reach of tagging out, she doesn't do it. Miranda tags off to her partner, and we get a couple of arm drags between, Kalaki taking, what's her name, down, the doctor. This, it was fine. Not Mindful. Pandemonium took the that gut wrench power slam that Kalaki likes to do. She took that great. Maybe better than most. They have a Irish whip that's reversed. As soon as she reverses it, she goes running towards the referee, she being Pandemonium, so that she can distract her from the obvious cheat that's about to happen. Nova Sky, who I still don't understand what is it that she's supposed to be. I thought she was supposed to be some sort of cyborg or whatever it is. Shows a lot of emotion for someone who's supposed to be, a program or computer generated or whatever the fuck. So she gets tripped up. Diesel chases her away. So now Kalaki's in trouble. As Pandemonium takes control, and the heat now is on Kalaki. They have to do the headbutt spot. She gets headbutted into the turnbuckles, and of course it doesn't hurt because she's an island girl, you see. Because all island people have rock hard heads. I don't know why they're still using that. Anyhow, let me not even begin with that. So the match continues on. You got the group of I keep wanting to say the Alliance, but the Enlightened out there just rooting them on. And we get variation number 4 of the CD cover pose deal on the second. Every heel has to do it. Miranda drapes over the second row. Classmaster comes over there to pose by with the book. Just have one person do this and stick to it. Every heel group does not need to show off for the camera. And what happened to this group being so, dangerous and creepy? Because this match erased that entirely for me, but we'll continue on. So then at some point they get up and they show the hand, which is, still unexplained on television. You got the classman outside showing the book, and Samantha Smart showing her book and yelling at the people. You're stupid. Mindful holds a foot choke on Kalaki while Pandemonium is waiting for her to get free. It looked like it might have taken a little bit longer than what necessary. And they're just beating her up. I mean, this carries on. And it carries on. And Pandemonium sits Kalaki down, and I don't know what the fuck she was doing with her wrist, like waving it at her partner and the fans, I assume. I don't know. And then Kalaki starts to fight back, trying to get out of there. As I said, this is everything that I expected it to be. She's going to have to sit there and take the heat for what it feels like minutes at a time. We get a tag. Mindful gets back in. Holds up the hand. Signaling, I guess, that she's about to smack Kalaki in the face. I don't know. I mean, they hold the hand up all the time, so I don't know why that would suddenly just make me think that. But how they positioned it, looked like she was going to, go ahead and slap her. But, of course, as Pandemonium's holding her, she gets out of the way, and that big smack goes right across the chest of Pandemonium. Instead of looking at what's going on in the ring, Mindful's like, oh, my God, I didn't mean to do that. And, now Kalaki takes them both, smacks both of their heads together, and then she makes sure that they get a good skull cracking because she gives them both a headbutt simultaneously. Pandemonium walks out. At least she's still holding her head, selling that. That was good that she remembered to do that. Kalaki gives that snapmare driver to Mindful. Again, don't know why that's not something that she would just go for a finish for right then and there. She goes for the surfboard spot. And I don't know whether this was botched up or not because it looked like they were just fumbling over each other. I'm going to assume that it was just Mindful attempting to break free. We'll just go with the narrative of that she was not going to allow her to do that. So she gets out of it, which is also every reason I was like, why is this the move that she would use as a finish? It takes too long. It wastes too much time. It's nothing that anybody's ever going to pop for, the surf and then a curb stomp. It's too much. But I will only assume that that's what they either asked her to do or something that they want, something that she felt like she needs to do for them, I guess. I don't know. So we get past that, and then lo and behold, we get that second tag, and Destiny Diesel comes in, the one that is like, this is, the one that everybody's gotten behind. I repeat, who and how? How would they have gotten behind her? She hasn't done anything. Hey. The tag is made. Diesel comes in. She comes in with a clothesline. She gives a back elbow. There was a drop kick in there somewhere. I mean, again, a lot of the stuff that she does is just run and hit. She gives it's a nice drop kick, like a little shotgun drop kick that she does and sends, what's her name, Pandemonium into the corner. But for whatever reasons, she decided to get up and then yell at the crowd and hold her hand up, like not sell that at all. So she does that, tries to get a clothesline in on Diesel. Diesel ducks underneath it, and then she gets caught with another high-impact running move. We'll just call that a cross-body chop. Mindful comes in and breaks up the count. Kalaki tosses Mindful out to the floor, which leaves the ring for Diesel and Pandemonium. Kalaki does a good job of cutting Mindful off, keep her out of the ring. Then we get ready to go for a finish at some point because Pandemonium gets Diesel down and she goes up to the second rope, assumably to go for the leaping DDT that she did in some weeks prior. But she misses. Diesel gets into the corner. Nova Sky tries to stop her. Diesel just punches her and knocks her down. No effort. Not even a problem. Then she sits in the corner, stomping her leg and says choo choo, which is probably as bad as that honk honk that they tried to get over. I mean, look, I give them all the credit in the world that this is what was given to them and they tried to make the best out of it. But now we've just assigned another dumb catchphrase to somebody else. So, choo choo, and then she runs out and gives us a spear. If there's anything of it now, Pandemonium took that spear great. If there was such a thing, if you're looking at that as somebody to try to make Diesel look like she was giving a fantastic spear, she did a great job of it. But she spears him, and then that was it. The enchanted. the Enlightened. The Enlightened suffered their loss. So the first thing I was writing after that was like, so Garrett is not going to be the one to score the first pin, first victory, to create the chink in the armor of the Enlightened. They've suffered a loss already. Already? What is this, match 3? I can't remember, but I mean, it can't be more than that. And they've already suffered a loss. And I'll put down, why am I interested in this group? And I don't mean that to say that I am. I mean, I'm questioning. It's like, why would you be interested in this group? Whatever heat that they might have had building up, for better or worse, whether it was good or, great or not, at least they were presented as a new supergroup that could potentially, be a problem across the board. For what reason would I need to believe that they're this unstoppable supergroup now? They've given up the mystique of them just in this match. Not only did they lose, Diesel did not seem afraid, concerned, bothered, and I'm not saying that she should have in this instance, but why? Why sacrifice this already? Were they not trying to get something out of this? And then it only makes me feel like Santana Garrett just comes off as worse. When this, when they were able to stop him, why couldn't she? And I know that the obvious answer was she was knocked out. How could she? Right? Okay, fine. But the things that I got from the Diesel Kalaki connection is that, okay, A, there's at least somebody there that was willing to fight against him. B, she on her own ran the entire group off. Then you look at Santana Garrett, like she didn't have anybody watch her back. And then when they did come out there and look at her, she just stared off into space like, huh? What are you doing? Why are you here? What's going on? I can say that Diesel's probably not where she needs to be as a wrestler, and nor do I believe in what David McLane said, like, well, she's the one that everybody's getting behind. But the one thing I can say that she has given that no one else has done at this point is that it's the no fear, I guess, aspect of her presentation. And if I was going to look at this thing right now, it's like, well, just have her go and beat the team up. And just sit Santana Garrett down somewhere and let Destiny Diesel and Kalaki the Island Girl tag up and take on all 5 of them, and there you go. Or 4. Because the way that they're pushing it right now is like, okay, well, she'll just run through them all. Or let her get a steel chair and just beat them all up. But I have no reason to believe in this group. I have no reason to believe in them as a faction of danger. Aside from the inevitable reveal of some hypnosis, drug-induced control, or whatever other creepy nonsense, supernatural power that they might create. Outside of that, I was like, where is the threat here? And there ain't none. But I will go back to say nice looking young lady, great spirit, has a lot of energy, does high impact stuff, but she's got to be able to go in there and lock up with somebody and actually wrestle a match at some point in time. It has got to happen. She's not going to be able to depend on Kalaki to carry the bulk of the match forever. The match that she's in right now, that has got to change. They're not going to just be able to smoke and mirror Diesel up for good. And that's what this match was. This match was smoke and mirrors, enough to make her look solid. But until I see her actually lock up and have a match and get, have a little bit of back and forth with some people in there and her actual in-ring psychology, I am not sold on, well, yeah, she's one, blue chip, yada, yada, yada. Next segment. Sibley Scoles backstage again, and we interviewed our 2 young ladies who just won. And quite honestly, it didn't look like, when you see her on camera, like she broke a sweat. And by she, I mean Diesel. Looking at this, I'm not even sure if you'd have ever thought that she even had a match. And I don't mean period. I'm just talking about this is supposed to have taken place afterwards. And there's a fair chance that it didn't. I mean, let's be honest, it's all pre-taped. So they could have theoretically just shot this and out of sequence and just stuck it in. But yeah, looking at this, I'm like, she didn't look like she broke a sweat at all. For that matter, it didn't even look like Kalaki did. So like, okay, did you even have a match? But this was better than the first interview. I mean, it's still over the top and it's still corny, and they have to work in their puns of their gimmick stuff. We'll take on I'll hang 5, I'll hang 10. Okay, got to do the surfer thing, and then you got Diesel that's got to talk her stuff too, and then she's got to give the old choo-choo. This is a pun-filled interview segment, and if you're into that, then you're in for a treat. Next segment is the Brooklyn Love vignette. And boy, let me tell you, if there was anybody that the room had fun with, with that night, it was Brooklyn. It was Brooklyn Love. I mean, the jokes on this segment was flying fast and furious. And that is no exaggeration. All it took was like one person to say, okay, yeah, she was such a great tennis player that fuck Wimbledon and fuck the endorsements of being a high-tier tennis player since I'm so great. I'm going to leave all that behind and go to wrestling. And everybody just jumped in and, whew, I'm not sure that she would have been able to tolerate all the nonsense that was being said at that point. I mean, oh man, and I'm not even saying me. Like, my first question about this thing is like, is she Drusilla Blade's sister? Because at first look, I'm like, okay, she kind of looks like her. I know that she's not, but well, at least I assume that she's not. But that was the first thing I was like, is she Drusilla Blade's sister? And she comes out talking about her tennis career and how she was too good for it and she went into wrestling. I was like, what kind of connection is that? I agreed with the room. I was like, what kind of connection is that? I was too good for this. I was a prodigy. I was great at it. So I decided to go into WoW. I'm like, what? How the hell did you get from playing tennis, a non-contact sport, to pro wrestling? I could understand it when there was like football and it wasn't rough enough, so I decided to get into wrestling or MMA, and I decided to transition over boxing or something like that. I can understand those things, but tennis? I'm not saying that you as a tennis player cannot go into wrestling. It just seems like just a weird reason to do it. Like, I was too good for this, so I decided to go here. All right. Never mind, getting those millions of dollars of tennis endorsement deals and being on the Wheaties box or whatever going on. Here, that is a dream come true. So she talks about being introduced to Veronica from Room, and I wrote down, why would she want to join her? She clearly, in a kayfabe universe, she clearly didn't watch the show. What success has Veronica Varoom generated as a manager? From the moment that she hooked up with Speed is just lost and lost and lost. And we just opened up this show with two people talking about, well, I had to cut the dead weight so we could win. Here you got the reverse. I'm going to go join this loser that be her partner. She put herself over as a prodigy. And right on cue, somebody's like, why is she at Wimbledon if she's that good? I only wish I had my phone on to record those things. I would have played it right now. If I knew that it was coming, I'd have just sat that thing right in the middle of that room and let you hear all of it. Because there was some comedians that day. I tell you that. But look, not a bit of this showed her as being any good as a wrestler. I don't know what the connection from I'm Brooklyn Love and I play tennis, so I will be the greatest wrestler of all. Okay. All that came out to me is just another cartoon gimmick thrown into wrestling. Let's see how long this one lasts. And is he even going to use the tennis racket to do something? At least there's precedent for that. Blade is never going to use those blades to do anything, maybe other than slice an apple. But the racket she can actually use to get a win. Will she use that? Probably not, but we'll see. Next segment is the recap of the incidents that led to the 10-woman elimination tag. This includes a promo by Tormenta that was unaired in a previous episode. I'm not sure if the audience got it, is what I wrote. I mean, maybe somebody went behind and translated her following her getting on the mic, but I'm not sure that the audience got this. The next segment, the Alliance intro package. This introduces everyone individually. This seems less of a team opposed to just one by one. The two things that I walked away from with this. Gambino, during her portion, said that she defeat Penelope Pink for the title. I was like, why is she bringing that up? First off, she's a manager. She shouldn't be going after the title. Secondly, why is she bringing this up in what is assumed to be some sort of feud or match that has some heat? We know it doesn't, but it's a match that we assume has some heat between these two entities. So why is she talking about something that's completely unrelated to that? And again, she's a manager. She's supposed to be getting title shots for her crew, not getting it for herself. This also showed the Alliance doing a bunch of other things that had absolutely jack shit to do with wrestling. The only one that had something that you could plausibly say that, okay, I get this and how this relates, is Del Rey hitting the punching bag, and it's showing how much impact her punch has. Other than that, it's like, why am I seeing them playing skee ball and air hockey? What does this have to do with anything? That really gets me in the mindset for a fight, all right. Them just jacking around, running around Vegas, having fun. Like, what was this? How does this show them or promote them as being dangerous? And if any group needs the help to be portrayed as dangerous or competent, lethal, whatever you want to call it, is them. Why would you show this? I couldn't have been the director for this. I was like, turn this shit out and go cut me something else. Good grief. I was like, this is what kids do. They're supposed to be, and I say supposed to be, combat fighters in this universe. And yet we have this. And they're not even baby faces. I'm like, it might be excusable for the baby face. They are supposed to be dangerous. But they weren't. The promos are fine. Other than Gambino's. Everybody else is fine. Gambino's was the only one I didn't understand. Like, why? Why is she saying this? Because if she were to get in the ring with Penelope Pink and that match went any further than 2 minutes or a minute solid, something's wrong. If she did have a match with her, it should not exceed that. It should be an absolute squash. But it's like we have no concept of what lane Gambino's supposed to be in. Is she supposed to be a manager that's supposed to be cowardly because she shows that every once in a while, but then she'll turn around and be perfectly willing to fight? So I have no idea. The next segment was the introduction of the Alliance as they enter ringside. This leads off into the following segment, which is the wild promo spot, and the review is the same as before. It looks good, but it's not a direct message. It's split. It starts off with this inspirational tone, and well, it starts off with like a history of wrestling package that feeds into an inspirational tone, and you can see that. But then it just goes off into bar shit. Of course, they don't say that, but that's what it does. It should be a clear message. Either it needs to be a promotional spot to buy stuff, or it needs to be the inspirational spot to get the promotion over. It doesn't need to slam both of those things together. And not for nothing. And I like Keita Rush. Okay? I'm not sure why she is prominently featured on that when she really isn't there all that much. And that's nothing against her. But when I see that promotional spot, I was like, it doesn't make me feel like they are showing their current / top talent that they have in that promotion. Yeah, she could be there. Yes, she could be featured. And I'm not saying do not feature her. It just, she has a pretty prominent position within that, which should probably be, featured to somebody that is there more often. I'm not saying get rid of her. I'm not saying cut her out of the package. But it needs to be the people that's there more often than not. Whether that be the Mites or the Alliance or Santana, Garrett, or it's just a reshuffling of the video, so that the ones that are there and seen more often are actually seen within this. And again, that thing needs to be split up, especially if they're trying to sell stuff. If this is what you're trying to do, if you're trying to sell merchandise, then just make the merchandise video. Don't complicate it. Don't overthink it. Just sell the product. Because at this point, you don't need to have it be more complicated than what's necessary. Just sell it. Just sell it. Find a nice, creative way to do it. And leave it at that. Next segment is the next week's main event, Classmaster versus Santana Garrett, and I wrote down, is there a point to this one? I'm sure it will forward whatever story that they're trying to tell. But coming off of this match with two of the Enlightened, being beaten fairly handily by Kalaki and Destiny, where is this going to stand for Garrett? Like, by comparison, where is it going to stand for her? Is she going to walk out there and see the entire group and just, what's happening? Is this where she gets claimed by them or something? Where is this going? We will see. The next segment is the main event itself. I'm sorry. Nope. I got ahead of myself. Sorry. Next segment is Sibley Scoles interviewing the babyface team. This is typical Wild Babyface promos. Starts off with Tormenta. Goes over to the Mites. Comes around to Boogie. Again, this is all typical Wild Babyface promo stuff. Nothing. I cannot say whether Tormenta, didn't do a good job, but of course she's feeding that in Spanish, at least I assume. But she's feeding that in a different language, and then we get the Mites, and like I said, we polish it off with Boogie. Nothing really stood out beyond the fact that it felt like this got cut off. Like, the only person that did not speak was the one that probably had the hardest time producing English, and that's Cruz. And the video made it look like they just cut off whatever it is that she was trying to say. I mean, I shouldn't say that whatever she was trying to say because they never got to her. Once J Boogie finished what she was saying, they just moved on. Put the graphic on the screen and cut that off and got out of there. And that was the first thing in my mouth. I was like, I think they just cut her off. She probably recorded something said, but it wasn't used for TV. So, I mean, it's fine, I suppose. It didn't do anything to get me hyped for the match. It was another variation of you can't cheat. We're even now. It's 5-on-5. And I asked this question when they put the press release. I was like, at what point did the Alliance ever bully them? I don't know what this narrative that they were saying in the press release was. Now, fortunately, that press release doesn't reflect the show necessarily. But still, like, having said that, it's the, you can't cheat. Like, well, when did they ever have a numbers game on anybody there to begin with? Maybe other than the Mites. It certainly wasn't Tormenta. She wrestled against Del Rey on her own, and that didn't work out well the first time. I don't remember Boogie or Cruz getting in there with either one of them. All of that to say is, it, like I said, typical babyface wild promo. We got you now. This will be fair because everybody's fighting for fairness. Fair play. Somebody needs to just go ahead and put that on the shirt. Well, actually, no, they don't because they'll probably get sued by DC Comics. Okay, now we got past that. Now we can say we go to the main event. In the main event, the Alliance, Reina Del Rey, Sylvia Sanchez, the Brat Pack consisting of Gigi Gianni and BK Rhythm, and the manager / wrestler Ariana Gambino. As they take on Tormenta, Lil J Boogie, Gabriella Cruz, and Sugar and Spice, the Mighty Mites. Before I even start, the Gambino thing still kind of gets me. It's like, there doesn't seem to be a clear direction for her. Especially when you look at the start of the match versus the end of the match. It doesn't feel like any sort of clear direction here. It's just, all right, you're another body, so now we can have this 10-woman tag match, which she probably didn't belong in the first place. Not in a competitive sense, at least. Her being there is one thing. She shouldn't have been competitive with any of them. But it's like they don't want to just regulate her to being a manager. They want her to do both. And so I guess that's what she's going to do. The match opens up with all 10 of them fighting each other. The ref does nothing. Why? Just standing around. And I wrote, why is Gambino in this and why is she just as good as the full-time wrestlers? If you're going to complain about it with celebrities popping up on WWE, complain about it here. Jelly Roll should not be just as good as any other wrestler because he decided to take a wrestling camp and I can choke slam somebody now. Ariana Gambino should not be as good as the other wrestlers when she's a manager and she just decides at random, now I'm going to be in this match too. And before the review, I was hoping that they would have some story told here or there would be some drama that would be illustrated throughout the match. My fingers were crossed. And not only that, I know that I had said I'm fully expecting marathon pins. Like at some point in this match, it's just going to be one after the other. Just boom, 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 boom. That was my prediction. I got something worse than marathon pins. They got like dual pins, pinning people 2 at a time. I'm like, seriously, why is this happening in this match? For what? And at certain points in the match, they had no rules enforced at all. I mean, the ref legitimately just stood there and just watched all this nonsense take place, especially when it got to the second half of it. Like, his only job at that point is to count. And I can't give credit where it's due. There's a portion of the match with Jay Boogie, of all people. Jay, yes, I know. Look, I'm still not fond of that goddamn boombox, especially in an environment like this. I mean, it was supposed to be serious. Like, you don't have to come out with the boombox all the time. I'm sure that the people backstage, you got to have your gimmick going out, but, it's not something that's going to be used. It's not like she's going to pile drive somebody into it or swing it across somebody's head. So it's not a necessary component beyond that they just wanted to have it. And I know that somebody there said, well, this is part of your gimmick. That's how your character gets over. I'm sure some variation of that was said. But in a case like this, it is not necessary all the time. Depending on what the narrative was, and this allegedly was supposed to be serious, but that's just my little observation. But as far as Boogie doing something in this match that put me in shock and all that flying head scissors that she did was fantastic. And she got some good ups on that leg lariat too. Now those things I'm not above giving credit where it's due. And she deserves credit for that. That was highly athletic. The head scissors specifically. And she got those on Sanchez, but she was the first one eliminated by Sanchez after a senton. And we're not going to go off into play-by-play of this. Just here's how the eliminations took place. So once we got past that, and after the 10-woman brawl that started it, and yes, Gambino was a part of that and fighting right alongside her girls without any sign of showing weakness. But when we get back to the point that I was just talking about, the head scissors and the leg lariat on Sanchez, she was the first eliminated following the senton that Sanchez put on. Del Rey eliminated Cruz after a drive-by lariat. Sugar eliminated BK Rhythm following a head spike. That was a pinfall. Spice eliminated Gianni after a cold breaker or lung blower from the second row, whichever one you want. Now, up until that point, it was pretty tolerable. And you can say that the match was moving along fine. I again expected it to pick up its pace of pinfalls and or submissions. However the eliminations were going to happen, I expected them to pick up the pace and get to this point. And then it got to this. There were 3 persons on each side remaining. And the ref is standing there while all 6 look at each other. And they square off in the ring. And he didn't say get out or do anything about it or whatever. For whatever reasons, the rules just went out the window. And McLane had to personally get an update on the match during the match on the PA system there. Okay. You got a ring announcer sitting there, They could have, if it was a necessary thing to have it updated, she could have did it. But he did. Had to get up, had to say something. Why? Just because. So Del Rey and Sanchez simultaneously eliminate Sugar and Spice, which was done with dual spine busters, I guess. It's kind of difficult to see that. But I think that was what the intention was, to provide a spine buster. So both of them are eliminated, leaving Tormenta against both Reina Del Rey, Sylvia Sanchez, and Ariana Gambino. And I thought, okay, well, maybe this is where they get to the dramatic portion where, against all odds, Tormenta fights from underneath to try to win for her team against these insurmountable odds of 3 against 1. And again, to borrow a line from the pitch meeting, they're like, no, this was not a problem. It was barely an inconvenience. There was no drama to that whatsoever. Seconds after they got put out, Tormenta beat both Sanchez and Del Rey at the same time following clotheslines. I know that they have to do what they got to do for their job, but that might have been the point. But I was like, you better find another fucking way to eliminate me. I am not going to go out here and both of us get put out together at the same time by one person. Find something else. But that's how it happened. And I'm sure nobody wants to make a fuss about it. I understand. This is what they want them to do. Fine. Okay, we'll do it. But goddamn. So Tormenta beats them both. And then it's just Gambino, who gets up looking concerned now all of a sudden when she had so much guts at the beginning of it. And then this didn't even go anywhere. She being Tormenta, just rolled her up. 1, 2, 3. Not a punch, not a clothesline, not a body slam, nothing, just ran across and rolled her up. There we go. She's eliminated. Then Gambino tossed a fit. And I said, what the fuck is this? I did not enjoy this match. Specifically the second half of it. I thought it made talented people look ridiculous. Or at the very least, shortchanged them. And I also thought it was like, that there was an opportunity there. If they wanted to build up any one of those 5 people on the babyface side, there was an opportunity there to do that. And it squandered it. And I would put it this way, like every time that they've had a specialty match of some description, maybe with the exception of the Monsters and Metal thing, I almost leave it like, yeah, I'm not going to say that I won't watch another, but it's nothing I would like, man, I can't wait to see that again. Because they almost always are poorly executed. It's like the championship match or championship challenge. Like, I could care less if they ever do another one of those because the last one sucked so bad. And this, I could care less if they do another one because this one just was a huge disappointment. Once it got to, it's showdown time. There's 6 people left, 3 on 3. And then all of that happened. I was like, oh, gosh, man, forget it. This could have been something that they could have built up to where it could at least been an anticipated match amongst factions or groups or, collections of baby faces or heels. But I have zero faith, especially following this, that they would ever be able to do it right. Or at least forget right and wrong. That they would ever be able to do it to where it's engaging for dramatic purposes. This was a flat finish. This was splat. Next segment. A fire is backstage. This is the end of the show, mind you. They talk about on the commentating booth that there's a fire backstage. We cut to that. And we see a disembodied hand putting that fire out that's in the trash can. So whoever set the fire was at least considerate enough not to just set the carpets or something on fire. They put it in a trash can and burned, I guess, Sandy's outfit. Why was that a big thing when she's already pretty much renounced being a babyface? Like, all right, so what? Probably wasn't going to wear that anyway. And it's the same thing that I said last time. This is the neatest case of vandalism that I've ever seen. We just go out in the hallway. Let's get this piece of sectional sheetrock or this piece of wall that we can easily move around, and we'll right on here with pink Sharpie striking blaze. So first off, we got somebody that's attempting arson. And now they have to walk, they being best for business, walk into this same locker room that was alleged to have been the Dojo Defenders locker room. So I guess they're still sharing it. And then, you know, this wall thing that they grabbing out of, who would take the time and effort to grab a wall, the WoW Arena wall, the thing that points to, all right, go this way to go to the arena. Well, who would take the time to grab that just to go bring this in? And it might not even be a wall. It might just be a whiteboard. But who knows? That's not germane to the issue. They walk in, best for business, with their new shirts on. I guess that they just went out and had printed up real quick. I mean, I don't know. The design detail is so staggering. I mean, I guess so. 5-year-old should have did it. So, they come in. They look at the wall. Well, I'm sorry. No, they did not. They go right past that and look at the trash can at their whatever it was that was being burned, which apparently was not much because whatever it is that they picked up wasn't within the trash can. It was on the rim of it. So I don't know what the big deal was. We didn't see what it was that was being burned. It was just alluded to that it was her gear. But it's also presented like somehow they walked into this room and they did not see the sign immediately. And we'll just call it for what it is. This is a sign. And then it's like, who would do this? Take a look over your shoulder. And then they turn and they see this. So now the heels have allegedly gotten a taste of their own medicine. What is going on with this? First off, why are we concerned or care about the heel locker room? Which looks exactly like the Dojo Defenders locker room, by the way. But why would we be concerned about them? Who cares? And do they not have anybody there that can actually make a mess? I mean, how difficult is it? Go down the hall, get these trash cans, throw this stuff all over the room. Give me some paint that can be easily cleaned off, and we'll spray paint some of these lockers and clean it up before we leave. And if you're not going to do that, then get something else. It doesn't have to be paint. Go to the grocery store. Go buy me some eggs. Or find something else that we could just smear all over the place. Something. This looks amateurish. And for a production that has the finance behind it that it does, You would think they would have a better job of this done. But it's back-to-back versions of this. And again, why would anybody fall for this? We just went through it. So what are they going to do? They just decided we're going to come in here and write our names on this after we got tricked with them the last time into thinking it was Miami Sweet Heat. So we're going to just write our names and tell them that is us, which I'm sure is probably somebody else. Where in the world is this story going? And it ended with that. This episode, it left a lot to be desired for me. And I will only speak of me. But big matches are not Wild's strong suit. I just accept it. It's not their strong suit. They might have them. And they might advertise them. But the match itself is just not their strong suit. Somebody creatively probably just keeps fiddling with it until it just gets screwed up. And they sacrifice, we're just talking about the 10-woman tag, they sacrifice the drama within the match forsaking whatever story that could have been told but bell to bell for the sake of the marathon pins, which I knew was going to happen, and getting that match within its allotted time frame. Even though this was a 2-match show. I mean, I know they don't want to break the pattern of stuff that they've done, so it can't go beyond 15 minutes. But it was a 2-match show. They could have gone longer. I ain't saying that they got to do it for everything, but it could have. And they could have gotten something out of that match. They didn't. The introduced tag team, Best for Business, good for them. As individuals, I just hope that it actually means something for them in the grand scheme of things. Now, where exactly they're going to be slotted in the hierarchy of WoW, who knows? Because I would have thought that at this point, Animal Instinct pretty much owned the third-party heel tag team spot, but now that looks like that might get challenged. The uncontrollable fight that only took 2 refs to get, to stop. Again, visually bad. And I'm sure you got some referees or people back there they could have utilized. They just didn't. And the Enlightened suffered their first loss out of nowhere in a go-nowhere match. This entire show, I can't even say it was bad. It was just disappointing. This was so disappointing. This was so disappointing. And I'll point back at that 10-woman tag because it started off good. It's not like it just was bad from start to finish. It started off good. The second half of that just fell off a fucking cliff. And just no nice way to say it. And that's the thing, is the people in that I like, and they're talented, and they're good. And I know that they could do better than that. I know that they can. And then I think about not just the talent that's, the in-ring talent, but then I think about the creative directions, like going back to Gambino. What is she supposed to be? Because she shouldn't be doing both. She just comes off, and I'm not saying her specifically, but whatever direction that they're aiming with her, it just feels very unfocused. And I cannot say that the Best for Business team is unfocused yet, but why they would end with the exact same thing that happened with the babyfaces a couple of weeks ago and we're supposed to care about it. It's like, I don't get this. Now, the only other thing that I would even remotely believe is that, okay, Miami Sweet Heat decided to come in there and stir the pot so they could ultimately get to a 3-way, maybe. But if that were the case, assuming that's because, again, there's no inside knowledge. I do not know. I haven't asked anybody. I haven't been told anything. But assuming that were the case, why would they need subterfuge? Why would they need to hide it? Why would they need to, we'll show them. We'll go in there and paint the walls or open up the lockers and tip over a bench. Why? Why would they need to hide or otherwise frame a team that they're already mad at? Best for Business already has a problem with them. They don't need the fire stoked. If anything, they should just came in and beat them up if they had a problem. Because, all right, I could see if they wanted to teach them a lesson about the hierarchy in the WoW, and we'll sit on top of the mountain, and how dare you spray us in the face with paint we would have won on our own or whatever. You know, I can see that if they wanted to get even for that. I just don't understand why they would need to try to mastermind some plan to accomplish it. It always comes back to, you know, sometimes the creative just gets too cute for itself. And this is one of those times. But this is also one of those things like, if you have no real reason to try to get people to come to the show or make the groups interesting or the personalities interesting or whatever the case would be, then you can do whatever you want. I would have thought that the Enlightened would have, regardless of whether I like the team or not, I would have thought that they would remain undefeated for at least a significant amount of time, so that by the time Santana Garrett came around to getting a victory, she would have scored the first big one. Opposed to, like I said, a random match against a random team for nothing. Well, I mean, I guess it's not random because they tried to kidnap Kalaki for some reason. And then Diesel decided to help her friend. But it still feels like a go nowhere match. So I don't know. There we have it. Another edition of WoW in the books, and beyond, you know, the normal stuff with storylines. Like I said, the matches are one thing, but the storylines are what will ruin it for me, because they're always inconsistent. They always have massive plot holes. And then they always got a bunch of people that just kiss their ass and tell them that it's great. And I'm starting to think that some of them are just flat out bots or exist outside the country. I've not seen as many people leave comments who have such terrible English. Like, you can't type it. And like, none of y'all look at the corrections. They put the red line under there, for Christ's sake. But just correct it. Anyhow, I know I'm right. And so let's see what's going to be coming up next on their upcoming episode. This one is titled Enlightened Intentions. This will be season 4, episode 29. So 429, and for me it'll be chronologically 185. And it reads as follows. A new face joins the fray as Brooklyn Love makes her WoW debut, teaming with Catalina Speed, accompanied by vicious Veronica Varoom to take on Animal Instinct, Goldie Collins, and Katarina Jinx, who are more than ready to sink their claws into the newcomers. Meanwhile, Drusilla Blade looks to add victory to her record with Genesis by her side as she faces the Albanian grappler Xena Phoenix in a heated rematch. What rematch? When did they have a match? I'm sorry. Okay, let me go ahead. In a heated rematch. And in the main event, the IQ superior Samantha Smart isn't finished with Santana Garrett just yet. Her obsession deepens as she sends the Classmaster into singles action with the Enlightened lurking ringside. Which former champion will be victorious, and what will it take for Samantha Smart to finally end her crusade? All right. Faroum, Catalina Speed, and what's the name? Brooklyn Love. I know Faroum and Speed have been presented as heels. And going off of the video package that we saw with Love, I would assume that she's a heel as well. So that then makes me question, why are they in the ring with Animal Instinct beyond the fact that what I said was true. They have a problem on the babyface side and they don't have enough of them. It's just heels on top of heels on top of heels. Somebody's got to turn. They're too light on the babyface side, and this, in my opinion, shows that. Or at least they should have, because it's all old. It's not going to happen. I can only guess that this alleged match that took place was either this was written wrong or they had a match and it wasn't shown. Either of those things could be true. Because I thought the only time that we saw Drusilla Blade was when she lost to Scout Parker, not Xena Phoenix. I would be pulling for Phoenix in that the same way that I'll probably be pulling.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.